Well, for more now, I'm joined by Dr. Amish Adalja. He's a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins University Center for Health Security. Doctor, it's good to have you on the program. What do you make of this idea of waiving patent protection? Is that the way forward?
No, I don't believe this is the way forward. I think this is the way backwards. We know that patent protections and intellectual property rights are the engine of innovation when it comes to these biopharmaceutical products that all our lives literally depend upon. And if you do this, you will basically remove the ability for companies to plan, to invest, because they're worried. There'll be a worry that if something is successful, all of that could be taken away, and there's not going to be any reward or incentivization for these products. And when the next pandemic or infectious disease emergency comes around, what company is going to want to engage with governments if this is what the result may be?
Well, if the companies that receive billions of dollars of taxpayer money every year to help them do research, I mean, that's not going to change.
Well, the government in many countries has crowded out a lot of basic science research. And the other point is that when you look at a company that was perhaps part of Operation Warp Speed in the United States, advanced purchase requirements or advanced purchase agreements, as well as funding for manufacturing, that's not the same thing as actually developing. And in these countries these companies entered into contracts with these governments about what would happen. You can't really go back on that contract and say now intellectual property is not going to be respected after you've already set an agreement with these companies. And I think really what they're doing is very short-sighted, and this is an attack on intellectual property writ large, because we know that this isn't going to change anything in the near term. This is going to be something that drags on for some time, and really what needs to be done is ending export restrictions, of ending the supply chain issues that are going on and moving vaccine into those places. Moderna's vaccine hasn't been patent enforced since its existence, but yet no other company is making the Moderna vaccine.
Well, what about production output? I mean, I think you would agree with me that the output of vaccines is not at its highest level. I mean, more could be produced, and yet that's not happening. So who's going to change that?
Well, I think that we are going to get to a point where we have enough supply. And I think that's going to be, I think we have to rely on the experts that are manufacturing this. You have to remember, even if you get rid of intellectual property and you give a company the recipe for the Pfizer vaccine or whatever vaccine it might be, they can't just instantaneously produce it to the level of quality that Pfizer can do, for example. So this is going to be something that's going to take a lot of time. And what we really need to do is invest in manufacturing capacity. Countries like India, for example, are major vaccine exporters. They have the know-how to make these vaccines, and they are making their own vaccines, and they're making the AstraZeneca vaccine. This is really an issue of export restrictions and not allowing companies to sell globally. And I think that we really have to think about this long range and what will happen if this is the paradigm. This is going to be the new paradigm.
Well, I mean, Dr. Adalja, are we talking about a new paradigm, or are we just talking about an exception here? I mean, we are in a pandemic, and if you look back in history, penicillin, for example, the patent protection on penicillin was lifted during the Second World War because we were in a world war. The situation is similar with this pandemic. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, what you have to remember is that suppose this waiver goes through, it's not going to change the trajectory of the pandemic, because by the time it all happens, this pandemic will have the supply of the vaccine from the manufacturers. This is about the future, and that's what I think is happening here, that this is a trial balloon going after kind of the foundation of what allows innovation in the biopharmaceutical company. Because soon after this happened, people are talking about taking this over to insulin or other medications. This is an effort that people have been engaged in for some time, and I think what it will really do is kill the engine of innovation in biopharmaceuticals. And I think we can do this much better. And I think intellectual property really has to be respected if we want to have these products that our very lives depend on continue to be produced.
Yeah, it is a good point. If it doesn't speed up the production, it really isn't going to benefit the people who need the vaccines most, that is for sure. Dr. Amish Adalja from the Johns Hopkins University Center for Health Security. Doctor, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.